Hi, welcome to the writing program. The ability to read, spell, and write, they're different. They're very, very different. A good reader may not spell well, may not write well. Because a reader only reads whatever is on the text in a book or a recipe, whatever is already written there. But a writer is different. You're looking at a blank page and then put words and thoughts onto that page. It is very, very daunting for preschoolers or even lower primary school children. Now, how do we know how to write well? How do we teach how to write well? Because a lot of programs talk about maybe the mind map, but that's generating of ideas. That's not really writing, because in writing you need three things. Number one, you need content. You must know what you want to write. Number two, you need vocab and grammar. And number three, organization skills. These are the three vital ingredients to good writing. Let me share with you a poem about the English language. It's very strange, but it's true. Let's face it, English is a crazy language. There is no egg in eggplant, no ham in hamburger, nor neither pine nor apple in pineapple. English muffins are not invented in England. French fries are not invented in France. We sometimes take English for granted. But if we examine its paradoxes, we find that quicksand takes you down slowly. Boxing rings are square. And a guinea pig is neither from Guinea nor is it a pig. If writers write, how come fingers don't think? If the plural of tooth is teeth, shouldn't the plural of phone booth be phone beef? If the teacher taught, why didn't the preacher prod? If a vegetarian ate vegetables, what would a humanitarian eat? Human? Why do people recite at a play and yet play at a recital? Park on driveways and drive on parkways. How can the weather be as hot as hell on one day and yet as cold as hell on another? You have to marvel at the unique lunacy of a language where a house can burn up as it burns down, in which you fill up in a form by filling it out, and a bell is heard once it goes. English was invented by people, not computers, and reflects the creativity of the human race, which of course isn't a race at all. That is why when the stars are out, they are visible. But when the lights are out, they are invisible. And that's why I wind up my watch. It starts. But when I wind up the spoil, it ends. Writing is truly not for the faint-hearted. Our philosophy in the writing program is loving to write. It must stand from the heart, not just the skills. But in order for the heart to function well, you need 3 E's. Number 1, you need ease of writing. A young writer must feel confident and say that, hey, this is a very easy peasy thing. Ease of writing. The young child must have encouragement in that process. Hey, I like what you write. This is fun. This is great. This is good. Encouragement. And the third one, enjoyment. It must be enjoyable for the writer, because ultimately he's the one doing it. So ease of writing, encouragement, and enjoyment. And good writing is like a piece of art. People stand back and admire it and says that, wow, that's awesome. That is what we want to achieve. As I said earlier, the prerequisite for good writing is content, grammar and vocab, organization skills. Now, what's grammar? According to a dictionary, grammar is a set of signs and principles or rules for combining these into utterances with the desired meaning. So when we say something, we want to communicate meaning. It is a code for expressing meaning in that language, in whichever language. It is the implicit knowledge that speakers possess about the structure and use of the language. It's not I, you, come. That nobody understands that. You and I, come, that people understand, right? Now the scope of writing, we want to cover the scope of writing in this writing program. We want to talk about parts of speech, sentence construction, 2D, 3D, 4D writing, writing structure, and then the writing process. These are the things that we want to cover in a writing program, and it's basically for about 2 years. Bearing in mind that they are new writers, they can read very well, but they have not attempted to write. Now, we talk about parts of speech. The new first aid in English is a text that I use for helping children with the parts of speech. There are 9 parts of speech, namely nouns, verbs, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, articles, exclamation or interjections. And we go through them one by one. What are nouns? For example, I will go through the 4 types of nouns, the collective nouns, different forms of nouns, and in great detail. And they can write it really effortlessly, except for the spelling, which I am there to provide for them. After the child has done all the parts of speech, or some parts of it, I could give a sentence, and then they must be able to tell me what are the nouns they picked up, what are the verbs, and what are the adjectives. For example, Tom rushed urgently into the dreary hospital ward as he feared the worst. So which one is a pronoun? He. So which one is a conjunction? S. So which one is a verb? Rushed. Feared. So they must be able to pick it up. So basically a sentence construction dissects the sentence. After learning all these parts, and then I have got a whole sentence, and then you need to be able to cut and pick it up. That requires a lot of skills. That means they have mastered the parts of speech. We do not only just talk about the parts of speech alone, just dissecting it one by one. That is not just it. Although that is a very important skill for a young writer, because when a child writes, I have a dog, I want to be able to say to this child, hey, can you insert an adjective? And he must know what is an adjective, right? If he doesn't know, then I have to give an example again. So they say, oh, okay. Then he can say, I have a little dog, or I have a black dog. So adjective is inserted. It gives it a new dimension to the dog. Now, word construction, word sentence construction, we are talking about what constitutes a sentence. Is basically subject plus predicate that equals a sentence. Like Ben was here. Ben is the subject, was here is the predicate. So the child will learn all these things in the class, because I want them to be able to identify again what constitutes a sentence. Or, for that matter, subject-verb agreement. Why is it Ben sees a dog and not Ben see a dog? Subject-verb agreement. So we will cover all that in the class. Having said that, a word actually is multifaceted. We also introduce synonyms. What are synonyms? What are homonyms? And what are antonyms to the children? So there is a very broad base, very broad language base for the children to build upon. I know that it's beyond a K2, it's beyond a primary 1 to know all these things, but that doesn't mean they can't learn. They can, and trust me, they know. Now, we're talking about the 2D, 3D, and 4D writing. Over here, we're talking about precise wording. We're talking about phrase with apposition. We're talking about colors, sizes and shapes, movement and sounds, analogies or even proverbs being used in this piece of writing. Let me give you an example of what phrase with apposition is all about. Tom, comma, friend of Jerry, comma, is sleeping. So, friend of Jerry is the phrase in apposition because it talks about Tom, who Tom is. It gives added information about Tom. If you say Tom is sleeping, that's perfectly fine. If you take away the apposition, that's perfectly fine. Tom is sleeping. But you can say Tom, friend of Jerry, is sleeping. You know who? You know that Tom? Yeah. Jerry's friend. That's Tom. So, and he is sleeping. So you see, that helps to not just to lengthen the sentence, but also to give another dimension to the subject. That is a phrase in apposition, and the children are able to use it quite effectively when they teach it. And bear in mind, they are primary ones. Now, 2D, 3D, 4D writing is basically two-dimension writing, and that's flat. What I said before, example, I have a dog. That's really, really simple, very flat. But 3D writing, okay, is with depth, like colors and size and shape. For example, I have a large white American Maltese. Wow. I can imagine, wow, this Maltese is quite large for its size, white, and it's not from Australia. Okay, so there is added details to that 3D writing. That's what I want. Now 4D writing is with movement or sound. Go back to the dog again, okay? My little playful beagle puppy. Oh, it's a beagle and it's a puppy. Loves long walks in the park, barking at birds. That's 4D. Action, sound. That is spectacular. So we want to actually use this 2D, 3D, 4D writing from teaching them from simple to specific to spectacular. Children always start with simple. I have a cat, I have a dog, I have soft toys. But it is very, very important. Yes, you have a cat. Can you tell me about the cat? Oh, I have a Persian cat. Wow, a Persian cat? Can you tell me a bit more? Oh, I have a white Persian cat. So it's different, right? I get more and more details, more and more specific details so that I can imagine or I can draw your Persian cat. So that's the way we want them. We want to bring from simple to specific and hopefully spectacular when they grow a little older. Now, in the use of description of adjectives, there is a sequence. A lot of us may not be aware, even though it's so easy, we just use it all the time. But for children, they have to learn it very, very slowly. And I can tell you there are lots and lots of fun doing that. You have to start off with the quantity. How many first? I have 5 marbles, for example. The quality. I have 5 big marbles. Quality, right? Quantity, quality, size, color, then adjective, noun, and then the nouns. For example, I saw 2 charming little black Australian poodles. It has everything in that description. Now, in writing story proper, a lot of people, they go through the mind map. The mind map, like, where is it? Gee, who is it? When is it? How is it? What is it in the first place? So, in using a mind map, It actually frames, gives you ideas. It generates content. To me, it generates content rather than helping a child write. Because yes, I can tell you who are the characters, I can tell you where the plays and when was it, but how do I link them all up? It's very different, it's very difficult. I mean, I can't do that. But it is very different if the child has summary statements. What do I mean by summary statements? Summary statements basically frames the text and acts as guideposts for the text. Give you an example. I have a balloon. The balloon burst. I cried. 3 sentences with completing the whole story. You could tell, then you could expand on, yes, you have a balloon, what kind of balloon, where were you? You can do the expansion in using that sentence. So that is actually very different from a mind map method of doing, of generating writing materials. This one, you have all the sequence. I have a balloon, my balloon burst, and what happened to me? I cried, right? So that is a very, very simple 3-sentence story. Now, a lot of writers, for example, in writing a story, many of us will come up with a framework. What do you want to write? And that's what I did with the children. In order to do that, I went back to the back end of writing a story. For example, Mr. Nosy, the story of Mr. Nosy. You know the little man book? Everybody knows that. I want to help the children summarize the story they have heard. Because to be able to summarize is a skill that all children must have. So I told them the story, and then I asked them what are the key points to the story. And they can tell me Mr. Nosy lived in Tyndalltown. And they can tell me he likes to poke his nose into everybody's businesses. And they decided to teach him a lesson by hurting his nose. And then in the end, he learned his lesson and he was friends with everybody again. So this is only 4 points. 4 points to talk about the story. And the children had beautifully written all these 4 points down without any prompting from me. They're able to do that. So the ability to summarize, it actually helps to reduce and take away all the fluff around it so that the main message is being communicated. That's the story of Mr. Nosy. Now, writing is an abstract and highly difficult endeavor for young children. Hence, they need guidance, they need time, they need encouragement to flourish and bloom. Please don't start correcting their grammar mistakes, their spelling mistakes, because they are not important at this juncture. If I see a passage written by a child with lots and lots of mistakes, I don't correct all of them at one time. I may point out 1 or 2 things, okay? Then leave it for another session and then point out another 2 or 3 things. I don't point out 1 to 10 mistakes on the same day, because that's very defeating. That is very discouraging. Remember our philosophy, encouragement. And because they are so young, they're very tender, and they're primary 1, primary 2, they need time. They really need time. Now, this program is a systematic skill-based program that imparts parts of speech, sentence construction, writing structure, writing processes to very young children for life. It is for life, not just for the primary 1 exam or primary 2 exam. No, the joy of writing must be cultivated for life. And many children, mind you, in my class, they ask for writing homework. Can you imagine writing homework? I was like, I don't give writing homework. I don't give homework. Full stop. but they ask for writing homework. This is incredible. That talks about the confidence, the love for writing. That really makes my day. All the time that I teach, I look back on these instances, and it spurs me to go on. Thank you very much.